The movie opens in a vast desert where a Spanish conquistador walks alongside a small boy, both exhausted and desperate for water, and after a while the conquistador takes out a bottle he has been carrying which contains a rolled-up map inside, so he desperately smashes it against the ground trying to break it open, but the sandy ground gives no resistance. Then the boy starts digging to find any stone beneath while the man comes up with a different idea, so he asks the boy to turn around and raises the bottle as if to smash it over the boy's head. But the scene cuts away before anything happens. It turns out this entire sequence was just an opening chapter of a novel currently being written by an American author named Bauman, but he is suddenly interrupted by strange noises coming from his staircase and notices the figure of a woman standing in the shadows, so he points a light toward her. And afterward goes through a box filled with old belongings of his late parents where he finds a gun inside along with a card from the Bilberry Woods Hotel in Ireland. Then travels to Ireland and arrives at the same Bilberry Woods Hotel where he meets the groundskeeper Fergal, and inside the hotel an old man named Mr. Cobb is telling two children a scary story about a witch who lived deep in the forest. But interrupts him and tells the children to go back to their parents and warns them not to talk to strangers. Then the hotel manager Mal arrives and Mr. Cobb scolds him for not being at his desk since Cobb is actually the owner of the place, so books a room for a week, and upon hearing his name Mal immediately recognizes him as a famous writer and says his son is a huge fan, so he excitedly asks to sign one of his son's books, but refuses. Then heads upstairs to his room but gets completely lost in the hallways, so a hotel employee named Fiona helps him find it, and he thanks her before asking about the location of a place called Big Redwood, and later arrives at the nearby forest where he approaches a big tree and scatters both his parents' ashes before leaving a container marked with their names. Then he comes across an old man named Jerry who offers him a magic drink which accepts, and Jerry reveals he made the drink himself from magic mushrooms mixed with goat's milk. That evening sits at the bar chatting with Fiona and tells her the ending of his latest novel, explaining how the conquistador hits the boy with the bottle but the bottle still does not break, so in the end the conquistador simply wanders through the desert alone until he dies, and Fiona finds the ending very dark so she decides she will never read it. Then shows her his mother's photograph and reveals his parents spent their honeymoon at this very hotel, and it turns out his mother died young after being shot in the face while the perpetrator was too young to be punished, so his father never recovered from the loss and eventually drank himself to death. Then asks about the honeymoon suite where his parents stayed, but Fiona explains it has been closed for a long time because Mr. Cobb believes a witch is locked up inside, and Fiona always wanted to go there but Mal never allowed it because he is terrified of his father-in-law Mr. Cobb. Then Fiona shows an old folklore book and explains that if anyone is ever chased by a witch they must draw a circle around themselves with chalk for protection, and at that moment the hotel bellboy Alby arrives, so Fiona asks him to describe his experience of encountering the witch, and Alby explains how he was once standing near the elevator that leads to the honeymoon suite when it suddenly opened, and when he used his lighter to peek inside the witch startled him. But does not believe this story at all and calls it Hokum, meaning complete nonsense. Then Alby tells he is an wannabe writer himself and asks if can read his manuscript, but disparages Alby for being a bellboy and burns his hand with a hot spoon. That night Fiona is cleaning the bar when she notices has left his mother's picture along with his tape recorder behind, so she heads to his room, but when there is no response she asks Alby to open the door using the spare keys because she has a strange feeling about it. And when the door opens her face falls in horror at what she finds inside. Is hanging from the roof while he experiences disorienting visions of himself riding the elevator and catches glimpses of his mother materializing beside him. In the next scene it is revealed that survived, and sometime later he returns to the hotel but the place is being closed for the season, so he meets Mal who gives him back his belongings and also reveals a shocking piece of information, explaining that Fiona has been missing since the Halloween party which was weeks ago. And the police are looking for her while suspecting Jerry since Fergal saw the two of them talking that night before Jerry also disappeared, and after this incident a background check revealed Jerry had vanished from society 10 years ago after his wife died under mysterious circumstances, and upon hearing all of this becomes deeply worried. Before leaving comes across Fergal and they talk about Fiona's disappearance, so asks whether anyone has checked the honeymoon suite since she always wanted to go there. But Fergal says it is impossible because Mr. Cobb keeps the keys with him at all times. Then heads to the woods to search for Jerry, and upon arriving at a shelter he finds the folklore book that Fiona had been carrying, and just then Jerry himself appears, so tells him the police are looking for him and asks directly whether he killed his wife or Fiona, and Jerry admits he did end his wife's life because she was in tremendous pain and he could not bear to watch her suffer, but he insists he and Fiona were simply friends and she had lent him the book and he did not harm her. and while he does not know exactly what happened to her, he says he knows she is dead, which leaves Ohm completely shaken. Jerry then reveals that 2 nights ago he sneaked into Mal's office to find some medicine when he shockingly heard the bell of the honeymoon suite ringing, and suddenly he saw Fiona's ghost pointing toward the bell as though she wanted him to go up there, so Jerry has been waiting for the hotel to fully close before entering the honeymoon suite to look for her, and it turns out he has already stolen the keys from Mr. Cobb. So Jerry invites Ohm to come with him, and even though Ohm thinks it is a bad idea, he eventually agrees. Then Ohm studies the folklore book carefully while Jerry insists these supernatural things truly exist and can only be perceived by those with an open mind, claiming the magic drink opened his own mind, which is why he was able to see Fiona's ghost. After everyone leaves the hotel, the 2 men sneak inside where Jerry decides to find a crossbow for protection. But he is caught by Fergal, who knocks the old man out before calling the police, claiming to be Jerry and saying he is bringing him to the station, which Ohm overhears from nearby. Then Fergal puts Jerry in his vehicle and drives away. At that time bell of honeymoon suite rings and Ohm gets scared but make his mind to go there. So Ohm enters the honeymoon suite alone using the stolen keys but finds nobody there and drinks from his whiskey flask until he falls asleep. While asleep, Ohm dreams of his childhood where he is sitting in front of a television playing with a gun when a bullet accidentally goes off and his mother, who is shot, comes to hug him anyway, and he also sees the terrifying image of a donkey man haunting him, which causes him to jolt awake. Then Mal arrives explaining Mr. Cobb noticed the keys were missing, which is why he came to check, so the 2 prepare to leave together, but Ohm suddenly notices something in the elevator and out of curiosity presses the button to bring it up, and this terrifies Mal, who insists they should leave immediately. But when elevator comes up to reveal Fiona's corpse still wearing the Halloween costume she had on the night she disappeared, Mal immediately panics and runs out of the room before locking Ohm inside, so Ohm desperately asks him to open the door and searches frantically for another way out but finds nothing. Then the scene cuts to a flashback of Halloween night where Mal is seen chatting with Fiona and asking her to drink her tea, but unbeknownst to her Mal had drugged it, causing her to lose consciousness. After which he carries her into the honeymoon suite and places her inside the dumb waiter that leads to the basement before leaving the room alone. Back in the present, Ohm finds his tape recorder resting near Fiona's body where she had recorded a message, and according to her recording she was pregnant with Mal's baby, but he was unhappy with her decision to keep the child even though she promised she would never tell anyone, and it turns out Mal was terrified of his wife or Mr. Cobb finding out, so he trapped her in the basement to die. And she says she was determined to find a way out, but in case she did not make it, she asked whoever found the recording to tell her parents she loved them, and upon hearing all of this Ohm is completely devastated. Meanwhile in Fergal's moving van, Jerry wakes up in the back and finds himself tied up, so he uses a knife to remove his restraints before jumping from the moving vehicle. And back in the hotel, Ohm searches desperately for a way out when he hears deeply unsettling noises in the suite that terrify him. Then Ohm's mother's ghost suddenly appears behind him and the entire room goes dark, leaving only his small light before the television turns on by itself, and then a creepy donkey man appears on the screen and reads Ohm's letter aloud, mocking him for accidentally killing his mother before the TV shuts off, and then Ohm sees a miniature version of his novel characters pointing him in a specific direction. So he follows it and finds a map showing an emergency exit through the basement, which gives him a small measure of hope. So Ohm removes Fiona's body from the elevator and climbs inside before pressing the button to descend. And when he finally reaches the basement, he moves through dark underground catacombs but eventually finds the path completely blocked with no exit, which leaves him frustrated. Then he listens to more of Fiona's tape where she says she believes someone else is down there with her and sounds increasingly paranoid. And Ohm notices chalk lines drawn nearby, so he keeps the chalk for himself, and the lights begin flickering around him while he senses a presence moving in the darkness, so he sprints back and climbs into the elevator just as the witch begins screaming and laughing, which terrifies him completely, and the elevator activates just in time, sending Ohm back up to the suite, but when he looks through the opening, the witch enters the room and begins tormenting him. So he has no choice but to draw a chalk circle around the bed and sit inside it for protection, and the witch continues staring at him through the curtains but cannot cross the circle, so Ohm is safe for now. The next morning Mal returns to the hotel and finds Jerry severely injured but still trying to open the elevator to the honeymoon suite, so Jerry pleads for Mal's help, saying Ohm went up there and needs to be rescued, but Mal claims he found Ohm drunk at the suite the previous night and drove him to the airport. And he tries to convince Jerry to leave the hotel, and Jerry reluctantly agrees, so a desperate Ohm pulls the string that rings the honeymoon suite bell, which is heard by Mal downstairs, but he does nothing, and Jerry drives off, which Ohm sees from the window with complete despair. But shortly after, Jerry returns to the hotel telling Mal something feels wrong, and then he finally hears the bell ringing and realizes Ohm is still inside, so he threatens Mal with an axe and demands the keys to the suite. and Mal reluctantly hands them over before Jerry heads upstairs. While Jerry goes up, Mal prepares to set fire to the entire area to destroy all evidence. Then Jerry reaches the suite and opens the hidden door where he is shocked to find Ohm trapped inside, but Mal appears behind him and kills him with a crossbow, and this causes Ohm to quickly hide while Mal tries to leave using the suite elevator, and Mal realizes he does not have the keys to open the elevator door. So he is forced to go back up and take the keys from Jerry's pocket. But Ohm beats him to it and grabs the keys just as the fire alarm goes off. Now Mal is desperately trying to escape before the entire hotel burns down, so he is forced to enter the suite but cannot find Ohm, who has already gone down to the basement, and meanwhile Ohm heads deeper into the dark catacombs where he begins to feel the presence of the witch, so he draws a circle around himself with chalk. But before he can complete it, the witch arrives. Then when Mal comes looking for his keys, he sees them hanging nearby and reaches for them when the witch suddenly appears and handcuffs him before dragging him away in chains, and she passes right in front of Ohm, who is sitting inside the incomplete circle while being haunted by his mother's ghost, so he breaks down and tells her it was an accident, and before disappearing she calmly tells him she knows that and says he cannot stay here. Ohm then takes out a small blade from his pocket and uses it to free himself from the handcuffs, before hurrying to the dumb waiter to get out of the basement, and when he safely arrives upstairs and exits the suite, he finds the entire hotel in a terrible state and the smoke causes him to lose consciousness, and later Fergal arrives at the hotel looking for Mal when he hears Fiona's voice calling him, so he follows the sound and finds Ohm lying unconscious on the floor, and he saves Ohm and carries him out of the building. Sometime later Ohm is recovering at the hospital when Alby visits him with a gift sent by Fergal, and Alby tells him the police found remains of Fiona and Jerry at the hotel but there is no trace of Mal, and then Alby confesses something shocking, telling Ohm he had spiked his whiskey flask with some of Jerry's magic mushroom powder that night because Ohm was so rude to him, and this leaves Ohm completely stunned as he looks at his hands which still have chain marks on them, and he recalls Jerry once saying these things exist and all they need is an open mind to perceive them. And he understands now that the magic mushrooms heightened his ability to experience everything he did in that hotel. Before leaving, Alby gives Ohm his mother's photo they found in a hotel and even offers to bring his manuscript for Ohm to read, and this time Ohm agrees. Then after Alby leaves, Ohm opens his laptop to finish the ending of his novel, and in the revised ending the Spanish conquistador does not dare to hurt the boy and instead asks him to use the bottle on his own head. But the boy cannot bring himself to do it either, so he throws the bottle away and hugs the man and both of them cry together, and as the movie ends the bottle is seen falling next to a sheep's horns, meaning someone will find it and finally be able to open it. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video like this.